a memoir of imagination. I was born at a very young age with a great sense of imagination, as was every other human child who's ever been created in the image of God. My imagination grew as I was given permission to live fully alive by cultivating wonder, curiosity, and adventure, which I gladly did. I come from a very normal family of great Imagineers, people, simple people, who daily use stories from the past to build connections towards the future. I could not read until I was a teenager. I'm dyslexic, which means I am highly creative. My brain is always building new images and connections. Thus, letters and words and numbers and even concepts are always seen by my brain as new, like something I've never seen before. Thus, reading, writing, and arithmetic for me, they were quickly replaced by reinventing connections through creativity, change, and community. My mom, because I couldn't read, would tell me stories about God and our heritage. She would read Disney relentlessly to me, and my imagination grew wildly. My dad would take me to the wood shop and show me a dead tree stump. He would cut it into slices to show me what he could see on the inside. And then he would create from the stump a beautiful clock, just like he imagined. My great-grandfather, O.P. Eastman, would look across the river and create images of a bridge in his mind. He would later build those bridges all across Michigan. My grandpa Baldwin, on Thanksgiving Day, would look high up in the pine trees and point to one treetop. He could see in his imagination which top 8 feet would make the best Christmas tree. Then he would climb up the tree and bring it down for me to see. My Grandma B, as she lay on her deathbed, would lift her old, vein-covered hands and play the piano as she saw it in her imagination, just like it had always been at the edge of her fingerprints. Everyone, I believe, was created with imagination and expected to keep it growing throughout their whole life. But sadly, according to Professor Ken Robinson, kids today start losing their imagination as soon as they enter school. But that doesn't seem to bother most people because they only want kids to grow up and join the chorus of productive adults who long to exploit knowledge only to solve problems, rather than explore thinking through imagination to discover and rediscover several possibilities of connection. When I was 12 years old, I surprisingly learned that I had not lost my imagination. Up to that time, I believed everyone was living in the land of pure imagination. But then I preached my first sermon. It was at a church district event where teens could perform a talent. Now, I was a young magician, but they didn't have a category for me, so I chose preaching. And my 10-minute message was the gospel according to Willy Wonka. It was amazing. I talked about the golden ticket. Everyone on earth could find one. I talked about Jesus like the candy man. He could take the sunrise and sprinkle it with dew. He could take a rainbow and wrap it with a sigh. He could take tomorrow and dip it in a dream, all to make the world taste good. There were also the children in the chocolate factory, all who had received a golden ticket, but they lacked the fruit of the Spirit, especially self-control, and lost the treasure. But there was one named Charlie, who also had taken what was not his and touched what he was not supposed to touch, but through confession and connection, he won the heart of the Creator, thus winning the entire kingdom. Now, understand, the judges at this event, a panel of distinguished pastors, could not see what I could see. They told me this: stick to the word. Wow, it broke my heart because I met God in that story, as well as so many others. The Wizard of Oz was clearly about God's value of thinking, having a heart, courage, and the sense of belonging. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was joyfully announcing the value of childlike imagination against the kingdom of darkness. There was Snow White, Cinderella, The Jungle Book, Pinocchio, and a host of other books and movies that took me into worlds much like my own, where new beginnings were possible through transformation, from death by resurrection into life. Only believe. Psalms 19:1-2 says, "All heaven declares the glory of God. The skies proclaim the works of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge." Look around. Look up. The sound of God's voice is everywhere. It's in our books and movies and songs. No matter who wrote them or who sung them, they're there. They're in our cities and in our country, in the oceans and the mountains, along the trails we walk, and in the places we dare not even go. God's storehouse is everywhere that imagination allows us to flow. But so many people I have met could not see any of this with their imagination. In Matthew 13:34 it says, Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. He was talking to people's imagination, giving them something to explore rather than a piece of knowledge to exploit. He did not come to solve a problem through grand pieces of information, but instead, he came that we might have life through imagination. I have faithfully attended 4 different Bible colleges and universities, all preparing me to communicate the gospel of Jesus to the next generation around the world. But none of them, that's right, none of them offered courses on imagination, parables, or storytelling. But that is exactly how Jesus changed the world. If we have faith, according to Hebrews 11:6, we have chosen to believe with our imagination that God exists and that God, whom we imagine, will reward us when we seek him through our imagination. And it is impossible to please God without the belief we have seen in our imagination, which is also called faith. Read the whole chapter of Hebrews 11. It is all about people who saw and experienced God through their imagination. I belong to the greatest nation on earth, and it is called imagination. It is the place from which I see light, I live life, and I love myself, my world, and my God. It's interesting that the word imagination comes from 2 very important words, image and notion. Image is something you can see, but also we must remember that we were created in the image of God. Notion, on the other hand, is a conception or belief about something. So imagination must be a place in our brain which is like God, that enables us to be able to conceive or believe something not real into reality. Thus, we must recapture our imagination by returning to our sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure. The modern world leads us to believe there are only 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. But imagination also demands we explore our forgotten sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure. I am who I am today because I live fully alive through my imagination. I hear God's voice. I dream his dreams. I see his kingdom coming. I create unforgettable moments. I experience the future. And I work in the power of God's Spirit because imagination for me is real. I choose to believe, and so can you. The Passion Translation in Matthew 18:3 puts it this way: learn this well. unless you dramatically change your way of thinking and become teachable and learn about heaven's kingdom realm with wide-eyed wonder of a child, you will never be able to enter in. May you be blessed to see your life, your world, and your God vividly and with vibrancy as you recapture your God-given imagination through a sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure, to believe beyond what your eyes can see. This has been my memoir of imagination.